So I think the full answer here from my perspective anyway, with what we're coming into, is there is a preparation aspect of it. And it is putting some food away. It is having some grains. It is having some seeds on the shelf. It's having some fats. Get your coconut milk now. Get some stuff prepped up. It's historically accurate that when you know the cycle is coming, to prepare for the cycles.
Is 2022 the year we see capital rotation out of risk assets like crypto and stocks, jumping into safe haven assets like gold? Gold investors haven't been losing sleep over the stock market's taper tantrum, with Blackstone warning of a lost decade, quote unquote, where stock market returns are anemic. We have Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo all forecasting gold over $2,000 an ounce in 2022, and Bloomberg says there's the potential for $3,000 per ounce on their price targets. Learn how simple it is to add physical gold and silver to your portfolio ahead of the rise in inflation and predicted price rises. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver. Call 1-800-356-4470 and get a free investor guide today. And with the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer from 2016 to present, click on the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video. And good afternoon, everyone. Jeff Raymond. Remember, he and I did March 2017 an interview, The Real Martian. You'll find that in my playlist, where we were talking about agriculture, indoor agriculture in snowy and cold weather environments for bioregenerative food and energy production systems. Because it's great to talk about a problem, and you could do that all day long and just feed the fear. But what about a solution that people know they can take action, know that there is a possibility for them to move through this the best way possible, with the best chance of, still living and thriving during these changes. And one of the base things is food, no society, no food, no civilization. This is going to be a solution-based episode more than it is, talking about the problem. But we do need to frame it on what both Jeff and I see in the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, before you might realize why you want to think about indoor ag or greenhouses or just ag in general that you can put some automation into. So Jeff, thanks for joining. Malnutrition, that's another thing to think about is, okay, the amount of food coming in the body, and maybe you could talk to this too, about the nutrients, the micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals coming in to allow you to have better cognitive function as well. Starvation takes many forms, and you could go through starvation by just eating 100% microwave meals in today, even though there's plentiful food around you.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, and you read about, I'm a fan of reading history, and when you read about famines of old and different types of famines and what was the catalyst, and really what was the final straw that broke that society or crushed that civilization, it was the non-functionality of people even being able to do the basics, because they were so hungry, or that amount of population had died off that the basics can't even be serviced. And we're kind of seeing that today, where we're just barely pulling a thread of even getting the basics of our civilization and society, at least in the US, the basics of government, the basics of things operational, everything. You go into stores, there's like one person working in there, signs everywhere, we have labor shortages, we can't serve you quickly enough, please understand. Well, when it comes down to this, through history, what we're experiencing something a little different, but it still does overlap. Because let's say in the 1450s, when you look at cattle, sheep, and goat production, there's a gap there. And I was reading back, like, why is there a gap in the record? Because in the UK, they used to take meticulous records. The British Navy is well known for meticulous records. Well, going back in there just weren't enough people to function. So then you looked at the die-off, and the number of candles ordered from the monks for the funerary services was a good way to get a mortality rate during that time on how many rites they were doing by how many candles they had ordered. So then you start to see this gap in non-recording. Well, that's kind of where we're heading to. But if it's at that way where people aren't functioning correctly because they don't have enough fats, nutrients and these things in their brains to even cognitively function. Okay, physical body function going into starvation where you can't really lift things or do things, that's part of it. But the swing in before you get that is, it's a stark reality of we're starting to hit into this where the nutrients and the things that make people's brains function correctly are coming into a deficit, and they will become a deficit first before the physical body stops functioning. So if you look at people and you say the world's gone crazy, yeah, it has. It does seem like we're being pushed toward a Borg type of thing. And I'm really questioning some of the things going on, some of the things that leaders are pushing on top of. Is that even human that's calling the shots at the top there? Because you're right, some of these things are anti-human, but if you're a Borg, like we've seen referencing Star Trek again, it all fits precision wise, that's exactly the society. Are we being invaded by the Borg again? I mean, that's a non-answerable woo-woo question, but I digress. Back to the thing there, it's going to require nutrients, fats, minerals, these sort of thing to keep the brain functioning so we can keep our civilization moving. And even if civilization were to collapse around, there were always these pockets that were able to, maybe they were the fishermen that were on the ports of some cities that were able to keep fish oils coming in their brain that could move faster than everybody else. And you always found these pockets of thriving communities, even in areas that were, people laying on the streets because they were so malnourished. And, reading through history, I really believe we're back at this point again, and it's going to be ultra important to keep superfoods and, some sorts of, there has to be that base layer that can't be broached, or else you lose your ability to think and function before your body stops working correctly too. I know that's a long ramble there, but.
No, I think to answer your question regarding I think the question, I'm going to summarize it, starvation, body, how can our systems help, the approach, the things that we've learned, how can it help with that? And total nutrient, the spectrum of nutrients that you need, you can't just live off of lettuce. You need a balanced diet. Two things come to mind. One, the old saying, you are what you eat. And two, the story of Joseph in the Bible, who 7 years of feast, 7 years of famine, and preparing, so I think the full answer here from my perspective anyway, with what we're coming into, is there is a preparation aspect of it. And it is putting some food away. It is having some grains. It is having some seeds on the shelf. It's having some fats. Get your coconut milk now. Get some stuff prepped up. It's historically accurate that when the cycle is coming, to prepare for the cycle. So I think that's part of it. But what we're seeing right now to the total nutrient deficit is people are not being taught. And myself, I was one of them. And I thank my wife for this. She's very much more up on food nutrient, and she'll talk to you about the gut biome and the gut brain connection. And those things blow my mind when you see, it's almost like your stomach is your second brain. And some people are now arguing with, these are PhD papers. This is not woo-woo. This is like the real deal here. This is where your stomach has almost more of a control over your body than you do. And specifically the bacteria in your stomach. It's amazing. There's a book out there, I forget what it was called, but it's like the gut-brain barrier, gut-brain biome or something like that. Amazing book. Read it. Very well cited. And it talks about how your gut and your digestion, translated, you are what you eat. Garbage in, garbage out. And what we're seeing in society right now, especially in America, the obesity rates that we see, diabetes, everything there, the diets are screwed because people are screwed because they don't know what to eat. We've been taught that it's about being fast, it's about being efficient. This is where I think our European brothers and sisters have it better than we do. They understand the importance of sitting down in community and having a long, drawn out meal, having different things from different places, and you experience different fungi, different bacteria. You give your stomach longer to eat. I know my military training, I had to go through boot camp. So, they sit there and yell at you the whole time you're eating. And I just remember it's so funny, eat faster, but eat safely. And, you're sitting there and so I eat really, really fast to this day. I've just never been able to eat slow. I'm done in like 5 minutes, even if it's a beautiful meal. And that's not healthy. It's not good. It doesn't give your stomach time to process what it needs to process, and then things don't get into your large and small intestine correctly, and a lot of nutrient uptake is done there. But so besides the fact that we don't know how to eat, we also have places like food deserts in the cities where usually these are the ones where the people really are in a hardship. It really is a almost criminal how people are treated in these. I'm not one of them, so I'm not going to pretend like I can tell you their story. But I'll say this: there are people who live a disadvantaged life, and we can do better. Um, and those people usually are surrounded by a food desert. The nutrition level in those areas is very low, and you're absolutely right. The cognitive functions of people who are in a malnourished state, you can be malnourished and be fat. Just because you have extra fat doesn't mean that you're well nourished. Um, I love biscuits and gravy, but if I eat biscuits and gravy every day, I'll be 500 pounds and I will not be well nourished. I will not have what my body needs. I have plenty of fat, but I won't have everything else. And when you look at the impoverished areas, when you look at the disadvantaged areas, we see a link. Now, I'm not a scientist studying all this, but I've read enough to know you see the scores in the schools, or if you take it out of the developed world and you go to the underdeveloped world, what you're going to see is places where people don't have a well-balanced diet, what God intended the design to be. There's not enough fuel. And if you don't give the fire enough fuel, it can't burn its brightest. And that's what we're seeing is, and again, I think it's across the spectrum here. It's not just there's the food shortages that are coming. That's going to make it worse. This stuff was already in place well before. We've had poverty for a long time. We've had food deserts for a long time. And we've had good logistics. We've had amazing logistics. We've lived in the best logistical period of human society ever. And we still can't get those people food. Shame on us, right? At Eden, we want to change that. We want these things in cities. We want them in impoverished areas. We want to partner with organizations. Our first customer was a church, and they want to use this to teach science, technology, engineering, math to the young men's group. And then they want to take it into the old person's home in our local area and help spread, give them fresh vegetables right there. And we live in a small town. We want to do that everywhere. We want to partner with people, get these out there. Food is community. And that is what we've done as a human society. We've always come together to share food. And as I've gone on this journey, I've seen how important it is. I've come to really appreciate those family get-togethers, our family reunions, where we come together, and the ladies in our family are amazing. They put together these amazing spreads. And usually by the end, we're all complaining because it's like, oh, we're so full, but it's been amazing. Community and food have gone together since the beginning. And I think we're going to be going back to that.
You made a really super incredibly poignant point there about we have had at the apex of technology running our delivery systems and supply chains, just-in-time delivery. We removed warehouses. We got that so efficient, but that is breaking down now. So again, if you're forecasting out, or just the average person that would watch or try to figure out what's going on, or somebody walking down the street, that there has to be an equation: fully function, optimal delivery times. Now, not enough people to even run basic functionality. Trucker strikes coming all over the place to push political change. Things were already slow anyway. You got how many umpteen ships backed off of how many ports across the world. United States is only one of so many that the same thing is occurring, where they don't even have enough staff to get in there to unload the containers. Then the outbound export points from exactly China, 4 ports are closed. You have to run it through your head. This is not going to work any longer at the functionality and precision it did. From this point, it's going to continue to decay.
Yep.
It's not like it's going to bounce off the bottom. We're going to run right back up to where we were back in 2018.
You're right.
These shortages are here to stay. We're going to have to work through them. We're going to have to reroute things. You're going to have to go more local. There's a lot of changes. And this whole thing about getting back to the normal, they've kind of bait and switched everybody. Like the world's going to just, bounce off the bottom, dead cat bounce. But the way the systems are already broken and tattered, I just can't see it coming back to the way it was. And then the problems with the economy now, people aren't trusting either bank to bank lending or even fiat currencies traded amongst nations. They're like, well, we don't think that one's too stable. You need dollar. Oh, wait, there's a dollar shortage out there. Then trades. Oh, wait, the banks aren't functioning. Wait, everybody's got COVID. Wait, okay, now it's 7 days instead of 3. It's just, oh, wait, the cryptocurrency solves a lot of that. So you can see there's already a built-in replacement. We're going to go through a little bit of correction here. And please understand, this is going to continue to devolve in the ability to get foods goods, medicines, and services into the place that you were used to at the speed that it used to. Now, it still might arrive. You go back to the 1800s, things arrived on wagon, but it'd take them a month to get it across the country. Trains sped that up. But we're going from the airplane back to the wagon right now. We're reversing it. A lot of people always ask me, where would you want to live? Where would you want to live? Okay. I would want to live in a farming community that in 1910 had one of the largest rail terminuses at that area, because we're going to revert back in time. We're going to rewind the clock. A lot of things are going to go back to rail, in my personal opinion, which would make sense why Warren Buffett bought 86% of all the American railroads. He knows something we don't. But imagine if we went away from highway transport and we reverted back to rail. Where would be the most prosperous towns? Where would it be an area that you could get food, because food is always arriving and delivered there? It would be a rail terminus from the old days. So I can see a lot of these smaller towns that kind of went away because the rail terminus wasn't used anymore because we went to trucking delivery, have resurgence in these same areas, but it would have to be in a farming community as well. So, for looking out to the future, reverse the clock a little bit and see maybe the development of this system and how it would be reversed back and what the times were. You can get a better gauge on how long it'll take products to get there and the expense of those.
No. When we look at the technology that we've had, and we look at what's being done, I mean, we're seeing the division of people. We're seeing it's almost like it's an intentional collapse. There's not enough evidence for me to say that, but
I'll say it for you.
It certainly feels that way. And when you look at it, you're like, what kind of idiot would want to do this? Like, this is just stupid, unless, that's where you come with, this is intentional. And when we look at the things that we're seeing from Schwabi Bobby, Klaus Schwab, and
the Great Reset, it makes sense. I mean, you can't tell me the Great Reset was planned. The Grand Solar Minimum overlaps in the same 5-year period of the onset of the change. These are the kind of people I'm saying. These people in the elite power understood this change cycle was here. So they invented something to overlap on top of the collapse to explain the collapse and still keep and hold and retain power on the backside of it. New economy, cryptocurrency. Excuse me, I cut you off there.
No, it's okay. And crypto, I think it could be a Trojan horse for the normal person. Actually, I have nothing against crypto. I think it's actually pretty cool. What I really like about crypto, to be very upfront, is that it takes the banks out of it, which means I see a big fight between the banks and crypto because they've been in power for generations. We're talking families that have been bankers for thousands of years. They're not going to go down without a fight. And that's exactly what we're seeing happen right now, especially with legislation in the United States and what senators and lobbyists are going to be paid to go do, which is say how horrible crypto is. And that's exactly what we're seeing. That said, when I look at the blockchain technology underneath of it, which is where I really come to, I think blockchain is amazing. It does have environmental challenges. The amount of energy that it takes to do blockchain mining is pretty significant, and I'd rather use that energy to grow food. That said, what I think the play here is, and this is purely Jeff's opinion, I'm not speaking for Eden or anybody else, my wife, I'm just speaking for myself here, is the play here with crypto, to me, seems to be the bankers letting in new technology develop to the point where they can take it over and use it for their purposes. So I'm a little weary of crypto right now for that reason. I don't see Schwabi Bobby and his buddies at the World Economic Forum sitting there going, yes, let's decentralize the banking system and we won't have any more money. I don't see him saying that. And I don't see his buddies saying that ever. And I don't see the families, the Rockefellers and everybody else that have been in banking forever going, yeah, hey, our generation will be the one that just finally says our family's not going to be in banking anymore. Like, I don't see that happening at all. I see them coming out guns a-blazing, and I don't think they would have let it get as far as what it has been unless they intended to use it. I see this as a hostile takeover of crypto as soon as this year, potentially. And I think it's unfortunate because I don't like bankers. I think they might be the basis of all evil on the planet. They're not your local banks. I'm talking about the big guys. Like, Joe and Cynthia that work in your local bank are just normal, everyday folks doing their jobs, wanting to help their community. Those people are amazing. They do good work. I'm talking about the bankers who sit there with an AI that monitors every damn transaction on the planet so they can get richer. And then they trade on your money that you've loaned them that they shouldn't even be having access to so they can get richer off of you taking a loan from them. Those people, I despise those people.
Yeah, those algorithms running, and you brought that point up. Okay, so let's say that crypto's allowed to run and it's built on that, knowing that there'd be public adoption and they could build everything out until it gets to that point where then it's a global and then it's overtaken. And well, it's the same thing with AI. Would it not be profitable that AI would want humans to build out the infrastructure, the entire gamut of the way it operates, and then at some point, oh, cut off. All right, thanks for building everything for me, or it, or whatever you want to call that vibration. I had an interesting talk with Wayne Steiger, and he was saying that, this thing has had names through history. They called it the jinn. There's other names for it, and Ahriman's another one. And there's quite some references to this in the Bible of different like demonic energies that would hold state, or like an energy being that wouldn't hold physical flesh. He's like, well, that could be in the wires of our planet. I mean, think about when the world really started to change, when copper wiring was strung up around the planet. Something could hold state inside that's an electrical vibration, could house in the third dimensional state, from an ethereal state, jump into an insulated state, which was the copper wiring. And then he went through this thing, and then it expanded to fiber optic cables. And now look at everything in the home. This thing, imagine a being that inhabited the world's communication wires itself. And then he's like, well, what if it can step out in 5G? If 5G is powerful enough to create a vibratory field where that thing could actually exit and step into physical dimension. It's like it kept giving us the secrets of technology to build it out, to build the platform for it to exist when it couldn't otherwise. Talking about crypto with some of the same similarities in it, build it out until it's up to the point where something can inhabit it, and then remove the builders of it.
I think it's one of the things I posted just recently on another interview. I edited a paper interview, and I responded when I posted it. I said, Eden, technology can be used for very bad things. Technology can also be used for very good things. Now, I'm not going to throw the baby out with bathwater here, but when we got fire, we could use it to burn down forests, or we could use it to cook our meal and get stronger and be able to take care of more. So technology isn't inherently evil. I do think how we're led to use technology there's definitely evil in that. Now, as a Christian, I believe in the spiritual realm. I believe in demons. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't have any evidence of that. So that's a different story. But demons, that's clearly written out. Evil is clearly written out. Satan is clearly written out. He is the king of this world. He's the prince of this world, I should say. He's been given authority over it. And my personal experience with demonic attack, I could definitely go into that. I've had real, tangible things in my life that are like, there's only one explanation. It's part of why I'm a believer. It's a negative reason to believe, but it's like, if that's real, then God is real as well. Like, those things happen. But if I look at technology and how it's spread, and if you think in your mind of the globe, and just think of fiber optics, or think of the copper, right? It starts in one spot. So you got in the mind your picture, and they start putting down copper. They start raising up wires, and you could see it spread, right? And you can see it start to encompass and go around, and eventually they all connect to each other. There's another thing that does that. The roots of a plant, kind of bringing it back, is that it starts with a little seed, and then it starts to branch out and tentacle out. In some species, like aspen trees and all that, they're all just one giant organism that just continues to grow and spread. Now, what we're seeing now, go from copper to fiber, right? Now those copper wires are starting to be replaced with fiber optics, and you're seeing that same thing. You could look at, it was recently in the news, actually, all the communication lines that are the undersea communication lines that we have that connect all of our networks to each other. And you're like, wow, there's a lot of those. And there's a lot of wires in those things, and they connect. It's like a strawberry runner. It shoots out, right? Like a strawberry runner, and then it sets its seed on the other spot, and it starts to send out runners again. It is kind of woo-woo, but and I don't have enough. It's not like I can go write a book and shout out a bunch of, sources here. But when you look at it and you just think of it abstractly, what's happening with copper, with fiber, and now with wireless, because wireless is it's just a wireless version of the same thing. It looks organic. It looks, and I've never thought about it until you brought it up, but like that strawberry runner, it's like, okay, so it grows in continental United States, but it needs to get to Oconus, Europe. So it sends a runner, it drops its seed, drops its runner over there. It has nutrients going back and forth, just like a strawberry plant does. And then it grows over there, and so we are seeing something that looks like that. And I'm a person that tends to be pretty open with a lot of things as far as ideas go. And I would say I wouldn't put it against Satan that we've got some form of machine thing doing something and he's been leading it, because Satan wants to be God, but he can't, right? That's the whole play. So he can look like God if he has all knowing information. And AI can give him that. All the algorithms, everything that we have. If you think about your smartphone and everything, it's right over there next to me, listening to this whole conversation, getting recorded on some network that I haven't given approval to do, but it's doing it anyway. And it goes up, gets recorded, and is being synthesized by some AI that's categorizing you and I as some woo-woo people that probably don't need to be worried about because we're so woo-woo. And little does it know that food is important and community is, and humans aren't going to be Borg. So we're going to put our boot in its ass here pretty soon. It just recorded. I did that for its purpose, by the way. And, AI is a way that Satan could have the omnipotent characteristic. He won't be, but he'll have that characteristic. And the world is headed for such a bad place that it's going to want someone who can do that. People are lost right now. People are calling for salvation. They just won't say those words. They're looking for a hero. They're looking for someone to come and solve the problem. It's not me. It's not you. It's going to take a village if you're going to do it without evil. It's going to be a lot of people coming together and working together and putting aside our differences, not worrying about skin color, not worrying about sexual orientation, and just saying, dude, we got some stuff we need to take care of. Let's figure it out. And you do you, I'll do me, but we're going to do it together and for the betterment of all of us. We need that. There is a lot of unhealthy behavior in the world right now, and it seems to be increasing. And back to the point, there seems to be something evil and nefarious, whether it's robotic or Satan or anything else. We won't know until the end of all things, or it comes out and just says, here I am, resistance is futile.
It's ethereal. Yeah, and that's the thing, that people are being pushed into sort of a duress situation, and the stress levels continue to raise up daily and whatnot in people. So they are looking for something that will get them out of it, so they can just go back to the Netflix and not have to worry. You solve my problem, you do something else. Because the realization is, the way most of the Western enriched world has been raised, a lot of things are off the table for self-sufficiency, and it's just too cumbersome. Why do I have to do that?
It's hard work.
Only poor dirt farmers do growing stuff. The mind frame is, I want the problem solved. I don't want to do anything so I can go back to my leisure time. But again, we're talking about the apex of history of whether it be supply chains, but the amount of free time that we have had just as a collective world here in the last 20 years, we've never had more free time and leisure time at any time in history, because everything's been unabated. There has been the supply chain. People are doing other tasks that were unthinkable even a century ago. So the way that a lot of people have been raised up is, somebody else will do it. I'll just get my thing over here. If it's too traumatic, I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to shut down, turn into a tiny little ball, and until it can get shaked out and somebody else can solve the problem for me. But see, again, it comes back to the schooling / indoctrination of somebody else is going to come and save you. Put it in somebody else's hands. The whole training, whatever term you like to use for that, and I think we all have a term for it, but it's all been about reliance on something else larger. Could be government, could be a person, a system, to come and save you, so you don't have to take personal responsibility or personal action outside that could be inconvenient for you because it's too tough, it's too physically demanding. And at this time, and this crux of change, where everybody's going to have to throw away that TV remote and get back to growing food and get on community base, I'm hopeful for a lot of things, but I think that's going to be one of the biggest hurdles to overcome, is shaking people out of that reliance that something else is going to come and save them. Superman ain't coming. You're the Superman. or the superwoman or the super it, whatever you want to call it, to save yourself. Humanity is not going to be saved by something else except individually you. And that's the hard thing to impart. It's a difficult thought to come by, you know.
Yeah, if we all stepped up to our true potential, the world truly would be a better place.